Have you ever felt like there are two versions of you living in the same body? One that smiles, performs, achieves, competes, and another that watches quietly from within, wondering why none of it feels like enough. You wake up, chase your goals, handle your responsibilities, say the right things, post the right images, wear the right confidence. On the outside, you look composed, driven, in control. But in the silence of the night, when the noise fades and the applause disappears, something unsettled begins to stir. That tension is not weakness. It is not confusion. It is the silent battle within you. One part of you is desperate to be seen, validated, admired. It wants to win. It wants to prove. It wants to be untouchable. This is the part that pushes you to work harder, to compare yourself relentlessly, to measure your worth in results and recognition. It whispers, if I achieve more, I will finally be enough. It feeds on praise and shrinks under criticism. It builds an image and then spends all its energy defending it. And then there is the other voice, quieter, deeper, almost forgotten. It does not care about applause. It cares about truth. It does not chase attention. It craves meaning. It asks uncomfortable questions. Why are you really doing this? Who are you trying to impress? What are you running from? This voice doesn't scream. It waits, patiently. And the longer you ignore it, the louder your restlessness becomes. This is the conflict the great psychologist Carl Jung spoke about. The tension between the ego and the deeper self. The ego is the identity you construct to survive in the world. It is your name, your reputation, your story, your achievements. It is necessary. It helps you function. But when it becomes your master, instead of your servant, it turns into a prison. You begin living for approval instead of alignment. You become addicted to validation. You measure your life by comparison. And slowly, almost invisibly, you drift away from who you truly are. Think about the moments when you felt the most exhausted, not physically, but emotionally. The times when you succeeded yet felt strangely empty. The moments when you were surrounded by people but felt completely alone. That emptiness is not failure, it is misalignment. It is the cost of performing a role that no longer fits your soul. The ego thrives on control. It wants certainty. It wants to look strong at all times. It fears vulnerability, because vulnerability threatens the image, so it builds walls, it hides flaws, it denies insecurities, it blames others, it protects itself at all costs. But here is the truth. What you defend the hardest often hides what you fear the most. And deep inside, your soul grows restless. You feel it when you hesitate before making a decision that looks impressive, but feels wrong. You feel it when you say yes to something that drains you. You feel it when you achieve a goal and immediately chase the next one without ever feeling satisfied. That subtle discomfort is not a flaw in your ambition. It is a signal, a call to pause, a call to listen. Because the battle is not about success versus failure. It is about authenticity versus illusion. It is about whether you are building a life that looks powerful or one that actually feels powerful. Right now, within you, a choice is forming. You can continue strengthening the mask, perfecting the image, chasing the applause, silencing the discomfort. Or you can turn inward and confront the deeper truth. You can ask yourself the questions that scare you. You can face the parts of you that you've hidden. You can choose growth over performance. This battle is silent, but its consequences are loud. Ignore it, and you live divided, successful on the outside, fractured within. Face it, and you begin the most courageous journey a human being can take. The journey toward wholeness. The tension you feel is not your enemy, it is your awakening. It is the moment your inner world demands honesty. And if you dare to listen, truly listen, you will discover that the conflict within you is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to transform you. It is meant to transform you. It is your creation. It was built slowly, layer by layer, from every experience that taught you how to survive, every compliment you received, every criticism that stung, every moment you felt invisible, every time you were praised for being strong, smart, attractive, successful. Piece by piece, you constructed an identity designed to earn love, avoid rejection, and maintain control. At first, it served you well. It gave you confidence. It helped you compete. It pushed you to improve. It told you, be better, work harder, stand out, and because of it, you achieved things you once thought were impossible. The ego can be ambitious, strategic, relentless. It can build empires. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The same structure that protects you can also imprison you. The ego is obsessed with image. It wants to be perceived a certain way. Strong, successful, intelligent, desirable. And once it defines that image, it will fight to defend it at any cost. It would rather deny the truth and appear weak. It would rather blame others than admit insecurity. It would rather exhaust you than allow vulnerability to crack the mask. And so you begin performing. You don't speak to express yourself. You speak to impress. You don't take action from purpose. You take action from pressure. You don't pursue goals because they align with your values. You pursue them because they elevate your status. This is how the ego tightens its grip. Not through obvious destruction, but through subtle distortion. It convinces you that your worth is conditional, that you must earn it, prove it, defend it. Have you ever noticed how criticism feels like a personal attack, even when it's constructive? That's the ego protecting its image. Have you ever compared your life to someone else's and felt that sudden drop in confidence? That's the ego measuring value through external standards. Have you ever refused to admit you were wrong, even when you knew you were? That's the ego choosing pride over growth. The louder the ego becomes, the more fragile it often is, because underneath arrogance is fear, underneath superiority is insecurity, underneath constant achievement is the haunting question, am I enough? The ego hates that question. It tries to silence it with distractions. More success, more attention, more validation. But validation is a temporary drug. It gives you a high, then leaves you craving the next hit. No amount of applause will permanently satisfy a self that is disconnected from its core. And here is where your power begins. The moment you recognize the ego's patterns, you weaken its unconscious control. Awareness is disruption. When you pause and ask, why am I reacting this way? You step out of autopilot. When you admit, I felt threatened because I was insecure, you reclaim your strength. When you choose honesty over image, you break the cycle. This does not mean destroying your ambition. It means purifying it. Imagine leading not to dominate, but to serve. Imagine speaking not to impress, but to communicate truth. That is when ambition becomes aligned instead of anxious. Your ego will resist this shift. It will tell you that vulnerability is dangerous, that admitting flaws will reduce your power. But in reality, self-awareness multiplies it. When you stop wasting energy defending an illusion, you free yourself to build something real. Ask yourself, right now, what parts of my identity am I terrified of losing? The strong one, the successful one, the always right one. Who would you be if those labels disappeared? That question is not meant to weaken you. It is meant to liberate you. Because you are not the mask you perfected. You are not the role you play. You are not the image you protect. Those are strategies, tools, constructions. But survival is not the same as fulfillment. If you want real power, the kind that cannot be shaken by criticism or comparison, you must learn to see your ego clearly, not with hatred, not with shame, but with discipline and courage. Recognize when it speaks, notice when it reacts, question its motives. Every time you choose growth over pride, you strengthen your character. Every time you admit a flaw, you expand your capacity. Every time you release the need to look perfect, you step closer to becoming powerful. Your ego can either control your life or serve your purpose. The choice is yours. And the moment you stop living to defend who you appear to be, you finally gain the freedom to become who you truly are. Beneath the noise of your ambitions, beneath the constant calculations of how you are perceived, there is a quieter presence within you. It does not compete. It does not panic. It does not beg for applause. It simply waits. This is the deepest part of you, the part that existed before the labels, before the expectations, before the world told you who you should be. While the ego shouts, the soul whispers. And because it whispers, most people never hear it. You hear the ego clearly. Push harder, prove them wrong. Don't let them see you struggle. But the soul speaks in subtler ways. It speaks through discomfort when you say yes to something that feels wrong. It speaks through exhaustion when you chase goals that don't align with your values. It speaks through a quiet longing for something more meaningful, even when everything looks successful on the outside. That longing is not weakness. It is guidance. The soul is not concerned with image. It is concerned with alignment. It does not ask, "How do I look?" It asks, "Is this true?" It does not measure life by status. It measures life by integrity. When you betray your values for approval, you feel that internal friction. When you act in alignment with your truth, even if no one notices, you feel a different kind of strength, steady, grounded, unshakable. Carl Jung called the journey toward this deeper self-individuation the process of becoming who you truly are, not who your parents expected you to be, not who society rewards you for being, not who your fears shaped you into, but who you are at your core. Individuation is not comfortable. It requires stripping away illusions. It requires facing the parts of yourself you've hidden. It demands honesty so raw that it shakes your identity. But it is also the path to wholeness. The soul will often disrupt your comfort to protect your authenticity. Have you ever achieved something you worked toward for years, only to feel strangely empty afterward? That emptiness is not ingratitude. It is misalignment. Have you ever felt drawn toward a path that scared you because it felt deeply personal and real? That pull is not irrational. It is your inner compass. The problem is not that the soul is silent. The problem is that your life is loud, is constant distractions, endless scrolling, non-stop comparison. You drown out your own intuition with noise, and then you wonder why you feel disconnected. If you want to hear the voice of your deeper self, you must create space. Silence is not a luxury. It is a necessity. 5 minutes of stillness can reveal more truth than 5 hours of distraction. When you sit alone without stimulation, without performance, without pretending, what thoughts rise? What fears surface? What desires refuse to disappear? Those recurring desires are not random. They are clues. The soul often speaks through patterns. A dream you can't shake, a passion you keep returning to, a truth you keep avoiding. It doesn't demand perfection, it demands honesty. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It requires you to stop lying to yourself. And here is where your strength is tested. Because following your soul may cost you comfort. It may cost you approval. It may require you to step away from paths that look impressive but feel empty. It may force you to admit that some of your ambitions were never truly yours. But what is the alternative? Living a life that looks powerful but feels hollow. But ease, to Leifson, T creates a different kind of confidence. It is not loud. It does not need validation. It is the calm certainty that comes from knowing your actions reflect your truth. When your choices match your values, your energy changes. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop chasing every opportunity. You start moving with clarity. The soul is not asking you to abandon ambition. It is asking you to purify it, to pursue excellence not to fill a void, but to express your potential. To build, not for applause, but for meaning. To lead not from ego, but from integrity. Right now, within you, there is a voice that knows the next step you need to take. It may be uncomfortable. It may challenge your current identity. But it is honest, because the more you ignore your soul, the louder your dissatisfaction will become. And the moment you begin honoring it, even in small ways, you will feel something powerful awaken inside you. Not noise, not ego, but truth. And truth, once embraced, will transform everything. Growth rarely begins in comfort. It begins in collision. It begins the moment the identity you built can no longer contain the truth trying to emerge. This is the breaking point. The clash between the ego that wants control and the deeper self that demands evolution. At first it feels like chaos. A failure you didn't expect, a rejection you didn't deserve, a relationship that collapses, a career path that suddenly feels empty. The ego interprets these moments as threats. It panics. It searches for someone to blame. It tightens its grip on the image you've worked so hard to protect. This isn't my fault. They don't see my value. I just need to push harder. But beneath that reaction is something far more powerful: exposure. When life disrupts your plans, it exposes the fragility of what you were standing on. If your confidence was built only on prey, say, criticism will shatter it. If your identity was built only on success, failure will destabilize it. If your sense of worth was built on comparison, someone else's victory will feel like your defeat. This is not punishment, it is revelation. Carl Jung spoke about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or suppress, the insecurities we hide, the jealousy we pretend we don't feel, the anger we mask as indifference, the fear we disguise as arrogance. The shadow does not disappear just because you ignore it. It waits, and when pressure builds, it erupts. Have you ever overreacted to something small? That's the shadow surfacing. Have you ever felt irrational envy towards someone's success? That's the shadow revealing insecurity. Have you ever criticized someone harshly for traits that secretly exist within you? That's projection. The ego hates the shadow. It wants to maintain a clean, polished self-image. It wants to believe you are always rational, always right. But real strength does not come from denial. It comes from integration. The collision between ego and shadow feels uncomfortable because it destroys illusion. It forces you to admit, I am not as perfect as I thought. And for the ego, that feels like death. But here's the breakthrough. It is not death. It is rebirth. When you stop running from your shadow, you reclaim energy you didn't know you were wasting. Every suppressed insecurity consumes mental space. Every denied flaw requires effort to hide. Every unacknowledged fear subtly controls your decisions. Imagine the power of no longer pretending. Imagine admitting, yes, I felt jealous. Yes, I was insecure. Yes, I was wrong. That honesty does not weaken you. It liberates you, because once you own your shadow, it loses its unconscious control. The anger you acknowledge becomes assertiveness. The insecurity you confront, mentee, becomes humility. The fear you face becomes courage. The traits you integrate transform into depth and resilience. The ego resists this process because it thrives on superiority and certainty. It would rather maintain the illusion of strength than endure the vulnerability of growth. But growth demands friction. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Character is formed in confrontation. When life challenges you, pause before reacting. Instead of defending your image, ask yourself, what is this revealing about me? Instead of blaming someone else, ask, why did this trigger me so deeply? Instead of suppressing discomfort, explore it. Discomfort is data. Every emotional reaction is a signal pointing towards something unresolved. If you follow that signal, instead of silencing it, you discover the areas where transformation is waiting. This is where most people turn back. They choose comfort over evolution. They double down on the mask. They strengthen the ego instead of confronting the shadow. But you are not here to live divided. You are here to become whole. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integration. It means acknowledging your light without denying your darkness. It means accepting your ambition without hiding your fear. It means standing in your truth without needing to appear flawless. The collision you fear is the doorway you need. Every crisis contains an invitation. Every breakdown carries the blueprint of a breakthrough. The question is not whether you will face conflict. It is whether you will use it. When you stop defending your ego and start developing your awareness, you step into a different level of power. A grounded power. A conscious power. A power that is not shaken by exposure, because it is built on honesty. This is the moment of transformation. The ego will fight. The shadow will surface. The discomfort will intensify. But if you stay present, if you choose reflection over reaction, responsibility over blame, courage over pride, you will not be destroyed by the collision. You will be refined by it. And on the other side of that internal battle, you will not find a weaker version of yourself. You will find a stronger, clearer, integrated self united, instead of divided, aware, instead of reactive, powerful, instead of performative. This is where real growth begins. The goal was never to destroy your ego. It was never about silencing your ambition or shrinking your drive. The real victory, the ultimate transformation, is integration. It is alignment. It is the moment when your ego no longer fights your soul, but serves it. Imagine what that would feel like. Imagine waking up with ambition that is no longer fueled by fear, but by purpose. Imagine pursuing excellence, not because you need to prove your worth, but because you recognize your potential. Imagine walking into a room without needing to dominate it, because your confidence is no longer fragile, it is grounded. That is wholeness. When the ego serves the soul, everything changes. Your goals remain big, but they become meaningful. Your discipline remains strong, but it becomes sustainable. Your confidence remains visible, but it becomes unshakable. You stop chasing validation and start chasing alignment. And alignment is powerful, because when your actions match your values, your energy multiplies. There is no internal resistance, no secret doubt eating away at your progress, no hidden voice whispering that you're living someone else's dream. There is clarity, there is direction, there is force. You begin making decisions from truth instead of insecurity. You say no to what drains you, even if it looks impressive. You say yes to what fulfills you, even if it looks uncertain. You build from authenticity, even if it means walking alone for a while. That kind of courage separates those who perform from those who transform. Understand this clearly. The world rewards performance in the short term, but it respects authenticity in the long term. Masks may win attention, but character wins legacy. Image may attract applause, but integrity builds impact. You were not designed to live divided. When your ego runs unchecked, you feel constant pressure to maintain, to impress, to defend. But when your ego aligns with your soul, that pressure transforms into purpose. You still strive, you still compete, you still build, but now your ambition is clean. It is not contaminated by comparison or insecurity. It is rooted in contribution. And that shift changes everything, because fear-based ambition burns you out. Purpose-driven ambition fuels you. Fear whispers, if you fail, you are nothing. Purpose declares, if you fail, you learn. Fear says, protect your image. Purpose says, protect your integrity. Which voice will you empower? This is your call to action. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but now. Stop postponing alignment. Stop ignoring the quiet discomfort that keeps resurfacing. Stop silencing your intuition because it challenges your comfort zone. The longer you delay, the more divided you feel. The more divided you feel, the less powerful you become. Integration requires courage. It requires self-examination. It requires discipline, but it also unlocks a level of confidence that no external validation can give you. When you know who you are, criticism loses its sting. When you act from values, comparison loses its grip. When your ego serves your deeper truth, success becomes fulfillment, not just achievement. Picture your future self, the version of you that no longer hides, no longer performs, no longer pretends. That version is not perfect, but it is whole. It is steady. It is decisive. It moves with clarity because it is not fragmented by internal war. That version of you is waiting on one decision, the decision to choose authenticity over approval. You don't need to make dramatic changes overnight. Start with one honest action, one boundary set with integrity, one conversation where you speak truth instead of image, one goal pursued because it aligns, not because it impresses. Momentum builds from integrity. Every time you choose alignment, you strengthen your inner foundation. Every time you act from purpose instead of pride, you reinforce your character. Every time you integrate a shadow instead of denying it, you expand your capacity. This is the victory of wholeness. Not loud, not flashy, but unstoppable. You are not here to win admiration and lose yourself. You are not here to build a perfect image and carry a fractured spirit. You are here to become integrated, ambitious yet grounded, powerful yet self-aware, confident yet humble. The battle within you was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to refine you. Now the choice stands before you. Continue performing or begin becoming. Choose becoming. And once you do, You will just change your life. You will transform the way you move through the world.